When investigators entered Ed Gein's remote Wisconsin farmhouse in 1957, they had little idea of the nightmare that awaited them inside. The house, isolated by miles of frozen fields and dense woods, seemed like any other rural dwelling, quiet, unassuming, and forgotten by time. But what they found within those walls would haunt them for the rest of their lives. As they moved through the dimly lit rooms, investigators stumbled upon a grotesque museum of human remains. The air was thick with the scent of decay, and every corner revealed new horrors, bones, skulls, and objects fashioned from human skin. Among the most shocking discoveries were masks made from the preserved faces of the dead, painstakingly crafted and worn by Gein himself. These masks were not mere trophies, they were part of a twisted ritual, a desperate attempt by Gein to escape his own identity and become someone else, if only for a moment. Though he was ultimately linked to the murders of only 2 women, the depravity of his actions granted him a chilling legacy that would inspire countless horror stories and films. The world was left reeling, struggling to comprehend how such evil could exist in a place so ordinary. Gein was not just a murderer, but a grave robber and a craftsman of the macabre. He exhumed bodies from local cemeteries, using their remains to create furniture, clothing, and bizarre household items, each piece a testament to his fractured mind and the psychological void he tried to fill. To his neighbors, Ed Gein was a quiet, odd handyman, someone who kept to himself and seemed harmless, if a bit eccentric. No one in the small town of Plainfield suspected the unimaginable horror that lurked behind his shy smile and gentle demeanor. The contrast between his public persona and his private reality is a disturbing reminder that monsters often wear ordinary masks. The face we see in the daylight can hide the darkest secrets, and sometimes evil lives right next door. Understanding Ed Gein means delving into the darkness that shaped him, exploring the twisted psychology and the madness that blurred the lines between identity and evil. His story forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about the human mind and the shadows that can grow in even the most ordinary places. Ed Gein's childhood was defined by isolation and abuse on a remote Wisconsin farm. His father was a weak, alcoholic figure, while his mother, Augusta, was a domineering religious fanatic who saw the world as evil. Augusta's teachings were relentless. She condemned women as sinful and forbade her sons from making friends. The boys' lives revolved around hard labor and scripture, with Augusta controlling every aspect of their existence. Ed grew up timid, socially stunted, and utterly dependent on his mother. The farm became a prison, cutting him off from normal relationships and emotional development. Augusta's warped ideology and the family's isolation planted the seeds for Ed's later horrors. In this suffocating environment, the foundation for Gein's monstrous acts was laid. Ed's relationship with Augusta was one of total control and emotional dependency. She was his only friend and the center of his world, shaping his beliefs and identity. As Ed's brother Henry began to rebel, tension grew, culminating in Henry's mysterious death during a fire on the farm. Though ruled an accident, many now suspect Ed was responsible, removing the only threat to his bond with Augusta. After Henry's death, Ed became Augusta's sole caregiver, deepening his pathological attachment. When Augusta died, Ed was left utterly alone, his world shattered. The loss created a psychological vacuum he would spend his life trying to fill. Isolated and adrift, Ed's grip on reality began to unravel. The unholy bond with his mother set the stage for the horrors to come. Her death marked the beginning of his descent into madness. After Augusta's death, Ed Gein's world collapsed. He sealed off her rooms, preserving them as untouched shrines to her memory, as if hoping she might return. The rest of the farmhouse, once filled with her strict presence, was left to rot and fall apart. Ed let the rest of the farmhouse decay, the walls peeling and the furniture gathering dust, mirroring the growing darkness inside him. The silence was suffocating, broken only by the creaks of the old house and the echoes of his mother's voice in his mind. Consumed by loneliness and obsession, he withdrew from the world, turning to anatomy books and lurid horror stories for comfort. These books became his companions, fueling his imagination and deepening his fascination with death and the human body. He became fixated on the female form he'd been taught to fear and despise, obsessing over images of women and clinging to memories of his mother's warnings about sin and temptation. His descent into madness began with grave robbing, creeping into cemeteries under the cover of darkness, exhuming the bodies of women who resembled Augusta. He was driven by a twisted longing to be close to his mother again, no matter the cost. Ed used their remains for grotesque projects, fashioning keepsakes and trophies from bones and skin. Each object was a macabre tribute, a way to keep his mother's presence alive in the decaying farmhouse. Gein's ultimate goal was chilling, to create a woman suit from human skin, a costume that would allow him to transform into the mother he could never let go. He would dress in these skins, staring at himself in the mirror, blurring the lines of identity and gender, desperately trying to become Augusta, to feel her power and comfort once more. He crafted masks, leggings, and corsets from human skin, each piece a grotesque work of art, worn in secret rituals that only he understood. In the flickering candlelight, Ed would don his creations, performing bizarre ceremonies in the shadows, lost in a world where fantasy and reality blurred. But soon, grave robbing no longer satisfied his growing hunger. The thrill faded, and he craved fresher bodies, living victims to fulfill his darkest desires. In 1954, Mary Hogan vanished without a trace. The community was shaken, but no one suspected the quiet, reclusive Ed Gein. Years later, her head was discovered in his home, a grim trophy that marked his transformation. This gruesome discovery signaled his shift from grave robber to killer, a line crossed from obsession to murder. The horrors he created were both a tribute to his mother and a desperate attempt to fill the emptiness that consumed him after her death. Alone in the darkness, Ed Gein was haunted by memories and driven by compulsions he could not control, spiraling further into madness. Gein's transformation from passive collector to active murderer was now complete, his crimes shocking the nation and forever changing the small town of Plainfield. The stage was set for his final, most shocking crime, a nightmare that would haunt America for generations. The chilling truth about Ed Gein began to unravel with the mysterious disappearance of Bernice Worden in 1957, a case that would forever haunt the small town of Plainfield, Wisconsin. Her son, Frank Worden, who also served as a deputy sheriff, arrived at her hardware store to find a disturbing trail of blood leading out the door. His immediate suspicion fell on Ed Gein, a quiet, reclusive local known for his odd behavior. Acting on this hunch, police made their way to Gein's isolated farmhouse. What they found inside would shock even the most hardened investigators. In a dark, cold shed, they discovered Bernice's mutilated body, grotesquely suspended and dressed like a deer after a hunt. But the horror didn't end there. As officers searched the house, they stumbled upon a macabre collection. Human skulls repurposed as bowls and bones arranged as if they were mere decorations. There were chairs upholstered with human skin, grotesque masks fashioned from the faces of his victims, and chilling evidence of Gein's twisted craftsmanship. Among the most disturbing finds was a suit sewn from a woman's torso, a haunting testament to Gein's obsession with transformation and the macabre. Investigators opened the refrigerator to find human organs wrapped in paper, as if they were nothing more than leftovers from a meal. They uncovered a belt made from human nipples, a grotesque accessory that defied all comprehension. Boxes filled with preserved body parts lined the shelves, each item catalogued as evidence of unspeakable acts. The sheer scale and creativity of the horror left even seasoned officers traumatized, many of whom would never forget what they saw that night. The farmhouse was not just a home, but a grotesque workshop and tomb for Gein's madness, filled with relics of his gruesome obsessions. News of the discovery spread rapidly, shocking the nation and shattering the illusion of safety in rural America. The townspeople, once trusting and close-knit, were left reeling in disbelief and fear. Ed Gein's crimes redefined the boundaries of human depravity, leaving a legacy of terror that would inspire nightmares and stories for generations to come. When arrested, Ed Gein was calm and cooperative, a stark contrast to his monstrous acts. He confessed to killing Bernice Worden and Mary Hogan and to robbing graves for bodies to use in his macabre crafts. Gein claimed he was driven by loneliness and a desire to become a woman, specifically his mother. Investigators confirmed his grave-robbing stories by exhuming empty coffins. The small town of Plainfield was thrown into chaos, its quiet handyman revealed as a monster. The story spread nationwide, captivating the public with its surreal horror. The Butcher of Plainfield became a symbol of evil hiding in plain sight. Legal proceedings quickly focused on Gein's sanity. Diagnosed with schizophrenia, he was found unfit for trial and committed to a mental institution. His farmhouse, a morbid tourist attraction, mysteriously burned down before it could be auctioned. After a decade, Gein was deemed competent and stood trial. Found guilty, but legally insane, he spent the rest of his life in a hospital, reportedly a model patient. Gein died in 1984, buried near his mother and some of his victims. His case raised enduring questions about mental illness and criminal responsibility. The shadow of his crimes lingered long after his death. Ed Gein's crimes inspired some of the most iconic horror characters in history. Robert Bloch's novel and Hitchcock's film adaptation drew directly from Gein's twisted relationship with his mother. Norman Bates, the mild-mannered killer, became a new archetype of horror. Gein's acts also inspired Leatherface's Skin Mask and House of Horrors, echoing the real-life discoveries at Gein's farm. Decades later, Buffalo Bill was modeled after Gein's desire to transform by wearing human skin. Through these films, Gein's legacy became woven into popular culture. The horror he inspired feels disturbingly close to home. His story continues to terrify and influence new generations. Ed Gein's story still horrifies and fascinates. Decades after his crimes, the grotesque details and psychological complexity make his case a benchmark for true crime. Gein's ordinary appearance and rural setting play on our fears that evil can hide anywhere. His pathological bond with his mother and descent into madness offer chilling lessons about isolation and untreated illness. The case became a media sensation, shaping how true crime stories are told and consumed. Gein's legacy endures in film, literature, and the collective imagination. His crimes force us to confront the darkest corners of human nature. For more stories of true crime and the minds of monsters, follow our channel.